Here are the three reasons that the Retroid Pocket 2S changed the retro handheld market. And just to preface, this is all my opinion, and if you disagree with me, just tell me, and I'll try to look into it. And the Retroid Pocket 4 may invalidate everything I'm going to be saying. And while the Retroid Pocket 2S is $100, you probably want the 4GB model, and there are shipping costs, so after those two things, you're paying closer to $135. Now to the real video. So, the first is about the price. In a market where devices like the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus and the RG405M are in a price range between $150 to $180, you get the T618 chipset, which can do some of GameCube and PS2. But then, you see the Retroid Pocket 2S at $100. The Retroid Pocket 2S is over $50 cheaper than the other two, so it should be much worse than those two, right? Well, the Retroid Pocket 2S has a T610 chip, which can do some of GameCube and PS2. Sound familiar to the other two systems? The T618 is only marginally better than the T610. The T610 is 90% of the power, and if you get the 4GB one, the other specs match, allowing for more power out of the T610. To look at the price instead, at the same $100 price point, the best chipset you can feasibly get is the 3566. The 3566 can only play most of N64, while the Retro Pocket 2S can play some GameCube and all of N64 at 2x native resolution without any struggle at all. So, the 2S has almost the same performance of devices in a totally different price bracket, and in the same price bracket, you can't get really good N64 performance, which the Retro Pocket 2S can. The second is the internal hardware. So as said earlier, the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus and the RG405M have T618 chips, and the Retroid Pocket 2S has the T610 chip. While the T610 chip is less powerful than the T618 chip, being less powerful isn't the end of the story. The T610 chip is newer than the T618 chip, letting it be more optimized. Both the T618 and the T610 chip use two A75s and two A55 CPUs. The difference between the T610 and the T618 chip is that the T618 chip runs at 2 GHz, while the T610 chip, on the other hand, runs at 1.8 GHz. While the T610 chip is 10% slower than the T618 chip, the difference is not that big. The place where this is most important is in GameCube, PS2, Wii, and Switch games. The T618 chip can't really play more games, but it can run them at a bit higher of an FPS. A perk of the internals and being newer is letting it to be small. Smaller than the 3 Plus by a long shot. I fit this into regular pockets, coat pockets, and even jean pockets. Another good part of the hardware is the 4x3 screen. 4x3 is perfect scaling for N64, Dreamcast, GameCube, PS2, and more times than not, Wii. Almost every other system scales nicely to 4x3. The exceptions are PSP, which is 16:9, and newer things like Android games or streaming, which are again 16:9. There are two kinds of middle grounds though, that being DS and 3DS. While one-screen DS and 3DS scales very nicely to 4x3, two-screen DS and 3DS cannot fit well on the 4x3 screen of the Retroid Pocket 2S. It is just too small. So if you're playing a game like Mario Kart DS, where only one screen is needed, then it'll look great on the 4x3 display. But if you're playing a game like Rhythm Heaven, where both screens are needed, then it will not look good on this screen. Another perk is HDMI. In the RG405M, there's no easy way to do video out. On all Retroid devices, including, but not limited to, the Retroid Pocket 2S and the 3 Plus, there are micro HDMI ports, which with an adapter can be used to display to almost any TV. There are three last little good parts of the Retroid Pocket 2S. Hardware, that being the analog triggers, Hall sensor concave sticks, and great stereo speakers. The analog triggers on this device are perfect for GameCube, Dreamcast, and PS2. If you didn't know, analog triggers are kind of like a gas pedal in a car. If you lightly press the gas pedal, you'll move slowly, but if you stomp it down, then you'll go way faster. It's like that, but for video games. Hall effect concave sticks are great because 1, they're Hall effect, so they won't drift and are very precise, and 2, are concave, letting them lend to your hand better than most other sticks, like Switch sticks. So the last part on hardware is the great stereo speakers. These speakers are front-facing, meaning that they shoot up to your ears rather than being shot to your hands where they may get muffled. Because there are two of them, they are set as stereo speakers, which just makes it much more of an immersive feeling. Last but not least is the software. So, at the $100 price range, you'll see a lot of Linux handhelds and very few Android handhelds, the most notable being the RG353V and P. The Retroid Pocket 2S has a great Android build. It runs on Android 11, and when first booted up, you'll be greeted with a setup wizard where you can choose to use pre-installed emulators. While I and many others advise against it, this does help with a newcomer just getting into emulation and needs some help setting it up. Once logged in, you're able to use the Google Play Store, which is not seen on any Android build for an Anbernic device. The Google Play Store is good because you can download games, emulators, and just any regular app from a source that won't hack you. Google. When you go into any Android app, you can swipe from the right and you can see stats on your device. But over there, the most important part is the key mapping feature. Using the key mapping feature, you can assign buttons to touch the screen in certain areas. With this, you can make games that don't have controller support now work with the controller. Android is much more versatile than Linux because of its ability to load up any Android app or game. On Linux devices, it is harder to get a game that wasn't made for the device to run. It requires decompiling and recompiling to make it work. And you have to make sure that the libraries match, as Linux devices tend to use older libraries. On the Android side of things, because the Retro Pocket 2S is running Android 11, that is new enough to run almost any APK. This allows for ports like Hollow Knight, Shovel Knight, and Ship of Hyrcanian to run. Due to Android, when playing DS, 3DS, and Vita, you can use the touchscreen on the emulation side. Linux can't do so. So, all in all, because of the great hardware allowing for GameCube and PS2, the superior price compared to other systems that can play these games, and superior power to the other systems in the same price range, the Retroid Pocket 2S seems like a clear winner. Lastly, there is the OS that it runs on. Running on Android gives it many perks such as sideloading APKs and Google Play services. Other companies such as Aberdic and Powkitty had to make similar devices to stay on top of what will change in the market. Before you go, I have a few things to say. One, I wrote the script before the Retro Pocket 4 was announced, so this is probably going to be outdated real fast, as I said earlier. And two, thank you so much for listening to me ramble. If you like this video, please tell me. If you want me to do this style video for another handheld, just tell me which, and maybe if you want a why on how it changed or ruined the industry. Thank you so much.